Are you curious about financial literacy? Then take a look at Professor Anthony RIVIECCIO's new program on Parrot TV. It's called Financial Focus University. This is an excellent program to learn about questions related to your own finances post-COVID, and how you can manage your money, how you can work with your tax situation. And this is an excellent and informative discussion of financial literacy. With Professor Anthony RIVIECCIO, your financial problems will be solved at Parrot TV with Financial Focus University.
Ladies and gentlemen, good evening and welcome to Financial Focus University. My name is Professor Anthony RIVIECCIO, and you should know that I have a couple of lives. My first and predominant life is that I am the founder of a 25-year money management firm partnered with the Vanguard Group called the Financial Advisors Group. My second life is I am currently a CEO in what we call the financial virtual world. RIVIECCIO Financial Advisors is now a virtual financial advisory firm. When I have a, 1 day a week, I try to actually conduce that to my third life. My third life is that I'm an adjunct professor teaching personal finance at both Herbert H. Lehman College and at Monroe College. Later on in a moment, I'll actually talk a little bit more about that. But ladies and gentlemen, let me welcome you to our show, because today at Financial Focus University, we're going to talk about 3 segments, or what I like to call segments. Our first and traditional segment is our Bidenomics segment. And as most of our viewers know, we cover that when we talk about both the financial news and the market information for the week. And some of you might know that we had so much crazy financial and market news this week that our president of the United States, Joe Biden, came on television today and spoke to us as Americans about the state of the economy. We'll talk more about that in a moment. Our second segment is our part 2 of our 4-part segment on budgeting. And ladies and gentlemen, please grab a pen, because I believe part 2 is where we're now going to start to actually create a budget. If our audience remembers, part 1 was about talking what a budget is and what it is not. Well, today, being part 2, we're now going to talk about the ingredients of that budget. What is income? What are expenses? What are fixed? What are flexible? What are discretionary? We'll talk about those areas in our second segment. In our third segment, ladies and gentlemen, we're not going to do our traditional Ask the Question segment, because I do have a short announcement about our show in the summer months, in particular July. So let's talk about the U.S. economy. Let's talk about Bidenomics. And let's talk about how the economic indicators were for the week. And of course, when I say the week, I'm talking about from Monday to today, Friday, June 10th. So, ladies and gentlemen, you saw Joe Biden get on television today, and if you didn't see him, I'm sure you're going to capture some of the highlights that will be in the evening news, probably starting at 6 p.m. And Joe Biden was very concerned, and he has every right to be concerned, because our economic numbers this week were absolutely terrible. So he felt he had to come on the microphone this afternoon and share some thoughts with you. And I'll share those thoughts with you in a moment. What you're looking at, however, is the economic data for the week that, of course, Joe digested and the rest of us digested, including the markets. You'll see mortgage sales went down 6.5%. You'll see that there seems to be a very big talk both on Main Street and on Wall Street about higher interest rates, right? The Federal Reserve Board has been constant in saying we're going to battle inflation. We're going to battle inflation by making interest rates go up. And of course, the economy responds to those situations. You'll also see during the week, jobless claims went up. Never a good sign for the economy, ladies and gentlemen, because remember, the higher the claims go up, the less people are working. And the final item that came out, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm sure you heard it in today's news, the Consumer Price Index, the level of inflation came out. And for the moment, let's just say it was a little bit higher than normal, right? It was so high that I will share a little thought with you about that in a few moments about somebody's shirt coming off. So let's talk about inflation for just a second, still keeping in mind the Joe Biden speech. So as you see on this chart, ladies and gentlemen, you're looking at an over 40-year chart of inflation. And currently our inflation rate year over year is 8.6%. Now, ladies and gentlemen, you know, sometimes as an economist, I'll disagree with, of course, some of our economic brethren, right? You'll see that number all day long today. You might see it all day long tomorrow. But you know what that tells me? That tells me nothing. Do I really care what inflation was from starting today to a year going back? No, that money's gone. I'm more concerned about what is it today going into the future, right? So guess what, ladies and gentlemen? On average, the rate of inflation went up 1%. So take that 1%, times it by 12. What do you have year over year? You don't have 8.6. You got 12%. That's a very, well, it's all dangerous numbers, right? I'm just going to share some inside numbers with you when those inflation numbers came out, right? Rent went up 1% in 1 month. Food went up 1% in 1 month. Clothing went up 1% in 1 month. See a pattern, ladies and gentlemen? Gasoline, however, gasoline went up 4% in 1 month. So what were Joe Biden's thoughts on some of these numbers? Well, he decided it wasn't his fault. He decided to blame Russia. He even decided to blame Exxon, right? He even decided to blame Congress for not taking any action, right? And then he even went as far as saying, well, the numbers that are coming out, if you take out the gasoline, right, those numbers are moderate. Ladies and gentlemen, anyone that is a fan of this show or even watches this show or even, of course, watches other shows such as CNBC, Bloomberg, know that indicators like food, clothing, etc., they go up or down 0.1, 0.2, maybe 0.3, up or down per month. Not 5 times higher than it is now. So I don't think it's Exxon's fault that your bag of eggs went up 30%, right? Or that your sauce went up 10%, or that my hamburgers when I go to the grocery store went up 20%. I'm not saying it's Joe Biden's fault, but it's definitely not Exxon's fault. Am I looking for relief? Absolutely. Hello, Congress, right? So keeping all that in mind, how did our stock market do for the week? Well, you know what? I'm sure it was petrifying. So as you'll see, the beginning of the week started out pretty good. We went up 0.2%. And then Tuesday was actually a very good day. We went up another 1.1%. As you know, we covered the Bob Press Index here, which will be on our next slide. And Bob gave me a call. He was getting very happy. And then all of a sudden on Wednesday, bang, right? The market went down 0.9%. And then as things just got more obvious with the data we just went over, on Thursday, what did the market do yesterday? Bang, it went down another 2.4%. And of course, when the CPI number came out today, couple that with the wonderful Joe Biden speech that I'm sure people like me didn't understand, what happened? Bang, it went down another 2.6%. That looks like a pretty good week, right? Ladies and gentlemen, please don't check your 401ks at this time. We want everybody to stay safe. Please, let's go to the next slide. So as we put all this together, ladies and gentlemen, how did the market do for the week? Well, you'll see the stock market, again, I count all 3 averages, went down in 1 week 4.6%. But if you remember that inflation chart you saw a moment ago, You know, inflation charts normally follow interest rate charts. And of course, interest rates are tied into stocks, but they're of course also tied into bonds, right? Because that's what bond payouts are. So you'll see that the short and long-term bonds went up very significantly. The 2-year bond went up 13% in 1 week. Hello, it went to 3.06%. Don't laugh on that 3.06%, because I believe 6 months ago that 3 was 0, right? 10-year bond went up 7% in value in 1 week. It now stands at 3.16%. The stock market for the year, ladies and gentlemen, from January 1 to today, has now gone down a total of 16.2%. Happy New Year. And as you see down at the bottom, we have our wonderful Bob Press, what I call the Gloom and Doom Index. When Bob called me on Tuesday, if you remember the week before, we had a great week. So Mr. Press was feeling good. Bang! Mr. Press went down as well, and he now holds at a negative 9.5%. Ladies and gentlemen, what does Bidenomics tell us for the week? You know, ladies and gentlemen, I wish I had a concrete answer to that. I can't tell you to get a drink, but I can get one. I can't tell you to go to the racetrack, but I can. But what I can tell you to do, ladies and gentlemen, is call your financial advisor, get some good guidance, some good advice. Our stock market is gone a little sideways, to say the least. And looking at it futuristically, I don't see any more pluses than minuses. So please feel free to call your investment advisor or get an investment advisor, especially if you have outside investments or 401k plans. The ones that do, that are going to be getting their statement soon, don't have a heart attack, feel free to give me a call. We'll be right back.
Do you know that there is a publishing company that wants to make life easier for you as a writer? This publishing company is called World Inkers Printing and Publishing. We publish in all different languages, and we're looking for writers of all genres, all formats. We're looking for scholars, ghostwriters, playwrights, poets, short fiction, novelists, you name it. We're looking for anybody who is interested in writing and the craft of writing to be in touch with us. You can reach us at info.worldinkers@gmail.com. With World Inkers Printing and Publishing, you do not require a lot of money to publish with us. Contact us today at info.worldinkers@gmail.com. Become a winner with other authors at World Inkers Printing and Publishing. Give us a shot. We will surely finish you.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. All right, so you still with me? You haven't jumped off the roof yet like you did in 1929? Very good. You're going to be fine. Don't worry about it. But you know, ladies and gentlemen, it all starts with budgeting. So let's talk about our how-to segment for a moment. We're going to talk about how to put together a proper budget. And as you see on the chart, it says part 2. And this is the second part of a 4-part series. And ladies and gentlemen, once again, I'm going to encourage you to grab a pen. And at the end of this slide, you'll also see my name and number if anybody wants a copy of these slides as well as the part 1 slides. So just to talk about part 1 for just a second before we get into part 2, let's remember that part 1 was to learn about what budgeting is and what it is not. Remember I said in part 1, you know, you talk about budgeting, everybody makes a face, right? They're grabbing their hair, they don't want to do it. And it's partially because of the total misconception about budgeting. Budgeting is not about the present. Budgeting is about the future. What is the future? The future is what you want it to be. And I like to tell people to look at the future in 2 different ways. Short term, long term. So if I want to buy a car in 6 months, if I want to go on vacation in 3 months, those are short-term goals. If I want to save for retirement, maybe purchase a home in 10 years or 20 years, that's a long-term purpose. right? So again, budgeting has got nothing to do with the present. It's all about putting together a financial plan for the future. So when we go to our next slide, as I like to say, ladies and gentlemen, budgeting in some ways is like making a cake, right? So of course, to make the proper cake, to make your proper budget, you have to understand that the ingredients within, right? So the ingredients might sound very obvious, but by the time this we get done today, they may not be so obvious. But in general terms, we're going to call them income, and then we're going to call them two types of expenses. We're going to call them your needs and your wants. Your expenses of needs, your expenses of wants. Some people like to call them fixed expenses or variable expenses, right? The expenses that we pay every month, we know what it is, and we're going to pay it every month. And then some expenses that are not so fixed, right? They're very flexible, right? Maybe vacation money, maybe recreational money, maybe special events, birthday gifts, right? Those birthday gifts, unless you got a large family, ladies and gentlemen, right? Don't happen every month, right? So, Halloween, Christmas. So you got fixed spending and variable spending, right? So remember, the object of budgeting is to take your income, subtract it by all of those expenses, and that tells us what's left or what's not left, right? So when we go to the next slide, we're going to talk about 4 components of budgeting. The first component, ladies and gentlemen, is net income. Let me stick on that for just 1 second. Net income. When we start with any budget, I generally recommend you start a budget on net income, right? I don't care how much money you make, because the gross means nothing when we talk about budgeting. When you pay your rent, when you pay things out of your pocket, is that the gross or the net? That's the net. So we start off looking at net income. The second component is fixed expenses. As I said earlier, right? We have expenses we know we got to pay every month, right? Gas bill, electric bill, right? Internet bill, the rent, right? Those things we know we're paying every month. And then the third component are what we call flexible expenses, right? These are the ones that, again, we just sort of, they're sort of flexible. It's not that we don't pay them every month, although some of them we don't. Some of them I've mentioned. But there are other things that vary every month, right? I'm a cigarette smoker, right? So that money varies on a monthly basis. You heard me mention recreational money, right? Maybe I go to the movies one week I don't. So that money fluctuates as well. So remember, when we talk about expenses and we put together a budget, we're going to be looking at different types of income, but we're also, again, going to be looking at different type of expenses. And what I want you to do in your budget, ladies and gentlemen, is mark down whether these expenses are needs or wants. That's very important, ladies and gentlemen, because in a moment, you're going to be seeing my budget. And my budget has my needs and my wants, right? Doesn't change anything with the spending. It just defines what those things are. So when we go to the next slide and we talk about making a proper budget, again, we're talking about writing the net income, not the gross, subtracted by all of your expenses that you need, and the expenses that you want, right? And we're only halfway done, because after that, then you want to start tracking those areas. And we'll talk more about that in part 3, our next week's show. And then, of course, the final thing is, after you're tracking it, then you want to start to tweak it, right? Because based on your short and long-term goals, you might need to start saving a little bit more, spending more appropriately. And we call that tweaking, right? That'll be more of our part 4, right? But we can't do part 4, right, until we know what part 2 is, right? Certain answers for part 2, and then, of course, part 3. So those are the components of how to make a budget. So when we go to the next slide, let's talk about different types of income. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I don't want you to laugh, but when I think about income, I'm a 31-year financial advisor, but I'm also a 25-year income tax advisor. So when I think about income, I think about all types of income. I think about money that you make. I think about interest you make in the bank. Maybe you're getting Social Security. Maybe you're getting retirement income. How about gambling, ladies and gentlemen? Don't hide that money. This goes on your budget. You can hide it from the IRS, but don't hide it from yourself. Okay? Business income, right? Such as myself. Rental income, right? If you're renting out property. Trust income, if you're receiving money from a trust, right? Robbery income. If anybody watching the show is a robber, right? Well, you got to count that income too. You don't have to tell the IRS, but at least have it in your budget, right? Because again, what we want to do to budget for our long-term goals as well as our short-term goals is we need to be honest with ourselves, ladies and gentlemen. So we need to count all of the income coming in. And that's just not all the income, right? Because that's the easy thing to track, really. When we go to our next slide, right, what's really harder are the expenses, right? And again, this is just an example of expenses. At the end of the day, your budget is going to show what your expenses are, right? But as you can see on the top, ladies and gentlemen, I mentioned, think of them as needs and wants, right? Some of them are obvious, some of them are not, right? We got housing, transportation, gas and electricity, internet, cable, insurance, whether the insurance is for the car or for the home or health insurance, card payments, right? Whether it's for Visa, MasterCard, or maybe you're paying a student loan payment. I don't mean the debt, I mean the monthly payment, right? Any clothing, childcare, pets, laundry, recreation, business costs. Just like you have business income, you also have different types of business costs, right? And I might have mentioned recreation. And again, ladies and gentlemen, these are just based on your lifestyle. So when you do your income, you also have to do your expenses. And I always like to say, count everything, right? We need to look at everything and then define it, whether it's a need or a want, right? So when we go to the next slide, ladies and gentlemen, again, remember the whole simple purpose of budgeting, because it's going to get a little complicated in a moment, ladies and gentlemen, but the simple purpose is to simply remember income minus expenses is savings, or my favorite term, income minus expenses is what's left or not. So when we go to the next slide, ladies and gentlemen, all right, now, ladies and gentlemen, I don't want you to laugh, okay? And hopefully what you're looking at is what I call the Anthony budget, okay? So notwithstanding the actual numbers that I pay for these things, right? Let's go over my budget. Now you'll see on the top, right, when we look at income. So my gross income for last year was $50,000. But if you remember, I said, well, don't count your gross income, right? So my net income is $30,000. So take that 30,000 divided by 12. What is my monthly net income? $2,500 a month. That's my monthly income. Wonderful. Very simple to put down. Well, now let's look at my monthly expenses. Well, you see, I made sure I captured my rent, and you'll see under there I put need, right? I got to pay my rent, right? So that's a need. You'll see under food. Well, ladies and gentlemen, under food, and I would strongly recommend you do this as well, you should put either need or want or both. And why do I put it like that? Because I know that some of the food I bought at the grocery store, I need for nourishment, right? I know I need it for me. And I also know some of the stuff I bought at the supermarket is going to make me both terribly happy and terribly fat. And that's probably the stuff that I wanted, right? So I like to say it's a combination of both, right? Same thing with clothing. right? We all need shirts, we all need ties, and we all need pants, and we all need socks. But we also know, ladies and gentlemen, sometimes we, both as ladies and gentlemen, we might look more at quality, right? If we look more at quality, well, we know that's going to be a little bit more of a price, right? So, for the Anthony budget, it's a combination of needs and wants. Bathroom. Yes, I want and need a clean bathroom, but we're going to emphasize the word need there, right? Gas and electricity. I need that. Ladies and gentlemen, cleaning lady. Well, I think I need it, to tell you the truth. Okay? Because, I got 3 lives and I'm running all over the place. But the reality is that it's a want, right? The reality is that it's a mini luxury, right? So I put it down as a want. Internet course. Internet's course I need. I need it to teach. I need it to talk to you. I need it for 50 billion things, half of which I didn't need it for before. Ladies and gentlemen, smoke. When I count smoke, I count my cigarettes and my new legal New York cigarettes, right? Well, you got to make sure I put them in the budget, right? Do I need them? Well, again, that's subject to debate. I'm going to tell you out in the street, yeah, that's what I need. The reality is that that's what I want, right? Again, you have to be honest with yourself. Before we can plan the future, we have to be honest with ourselves with what's going on here. Card payments. Well, that card payment for me, ladies and gentlemen, is a need because I put a business debt on my card, and of course, it was a need at the time, and it needs to get paid. But card payments are somewhat tricky, right? Because sometimes we might not be using our credit card appropriately, and what we again think is a need isn't really a need, right? It's really a want, right? If you go out to a restaurant once or twice a week and you tell me that same week you have food at home, okay, I'm not telling you to stop going to the restaurant, but again, be honest with yourself, right? That's food that it wasn't a need, right? But you could have went home and ate, right? It was a want. So track it that way. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's the Anthony budget, right? We should call it a day now, and I should wish you a good weekend. But let's look at my income subtracted by my expenses. Remember, I said my income was $2,500. Well, I'm going to ask them to go back one slide. Just go back one slide. Thank you. So you'll see that my income was $2,500, right? Well, you'll see I defined my actual needs versus wants. I had $530 in wants, or 22%. I had 78% of my budget, or $1,873, as needs, right? Put them all together. That came out to $2,403. Ladies and gentlemen, according to this budget, I saved $97 a month. Whoop-de-doo, right? Living in the state of New York. Because, now we go to the next slide. Because, saving $97 a month is great, right? But I might need more money because when I go back and look at my goals, maybe I had a goal, like maybe I wanted to get a car in 6 months. Or, maybe I wanted to purchase a home in a couple of years, and I figured out based on the cost of the home that I need to have a certain amount every month, within a certain period of time. And that $97, which is of course helpful, I need more money. As you can see, it says on the chart, right? You need more money. So how do we get more money? Now it's called proper budgeting, ladies and gentlemen. And you'll see I just mentioned some examples, which will be the basis of our show, part 3, next week. When we talk about proper budgeting, I like to talk about the 50-30-20 rule, or some people know it as the 80-20 rule. When we go to the next slide, ladies and gentlemen, you'll see, as I mentioned last week, there are several types of proper budgeting charting that we will talk about next week's show. Just to use the 50-30-20 and the 80-20 budgeting, for example, right? In simple terms, they say you should try to save 20% of your money into savings, and these budgets are designed to do that, right? Well, what did I say? my savings was $97 out of 2,500. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I say 4%. So compared to some of these budgeting samples, I think next week's show, I'm going to be joining you with my own pad and pencil, right? Because of course I need to both now re-examine my needs and re-examine my wants based on using some of these budgeting items. So ladies and gentlemen, I hope you join us next week. Let's go to our final slide, because when we talk about part 3, which will be learning how to track our money properly, our budgeting items properly, right? We're then going to go into our chapter, chapter 4 area, right? Which is to learn how to make the budget even higher, right? These are going to be great conversations. But if anybody wants a copy of these slides or needs any advice or wants a copy for our part 1 segment, please feel free to give me a call or email me. I will be glad to send it to you. We'll be back in a moment.
Are you curious about financial literacy? Then take a look at Professor Anthony RIVIECCIO's new program on Parrot TV. It's called Financial Focus University. This is an excellent program to learn about questions related to your own finances post-COVID, and how you can manage your money, how you can work with your tax situation. And this is an excellent and informative discussion of financial literacy. With Professor Anthony RIVIECCIO, your financial problems will be solved at Parrot TV with Financial Focus University.
Hey, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. All right, I hope everybody's doing their budget, okay? But definitely join us next week, for part 3. And of course, we're hoping the series is up to your advantage. Today, ladies and gentlemen, we're not going to have the Ask the Question segment. We're going to have a short announcement segment. I'm going to share something with you that I hope you join us during the course of the summer, because I think we're going to have an exciting summer. I'll share some things with July and some things with August and some things that our producer doesn't even know, ladies and gentlemen. So you're going to learn hot off the press, and I'm very excited about it, and I hope you will be too. You might know that today, our New York City mayor and our New York City Council are finalizing our budget. It seems like they're coming to an agreement on the areas that they want to increase and decrease in the New York City budget. New York City budgets are generally approved by the 3rd, 4th week in June. So nothing is or I should say, anything can still change, but the City Council and the Mayor's office have made joint press releases indicating that they pretty much agree on a variety of things. So come July, we're going to have some City Council officials that are going to talk to us about their thoughts about our brand new New York City budget. So, for example, you're going to find out that defund the police here in the city of New York, at least according to the current budget that was just agreed on, is a misnomer. It's pretty much, again, according to preliminary reports, are going to be flat. We'll know much more about that come July. And again, I am in current conversations with current Councilwoman Ms. Karina Sanchez, as well as Mr. Oswald Feelies, to talk about those areas of the New York City budget in July. And then come August, ladies and gentlemen, through a request of our producer, actually, we're going to have some of my students on the show. And we're going to talk about financial planning in general. So we're going to have some of my wonderful students that are going to talk to you about not just being taught by me, but about financial planning, learning it in school, learning it in high school, learning it in college, how important it is to their life, both as a professional and how it should be to you. So we're putting together a very exciting, and I apologize. And in regards to July, talking about the city budget, we're also going to be talking about the borough president budget. We have received confirmation, and you'll hear about it in the weeks ahead, that we will have a wonderful guest. I think it's going to be close to my birthday, actually, towards the middle and the end of July. We will have Bronx Borough President Vanessa Gibson that will share with us not just her thoughts about the city budget, but as borough president, she also has both an operating and capital budget. So we, of course, want to find out, at least for the borough of the Bronx, what you might be planning on doing, as well as her thoughts on the New York City budget. So we have a very exciting summer indicated for you, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you join us. Please press the subscribe button. Happy weekend. Be financially focused.
Do you know that there is a publishing company that wants to make life easier for you as a writer? This publishing company is called World Inkers Printing and Publishing. We publish in all different languages, and we're looking for writers of all genres, all formats. We're looking for scholars, ghostwriters, playwrights, poets, short fiction, novelists, you name it. We're looking for anybody who is interested in writing and the craft of writing to be in touch with us. You can reach us at info.worldinkers@gmail.com. With World Inkers Printing and Publishing, you do not require a lot of money to publish with us. Contact us today at info.worldinkers@gmail.com. Become a winner with other authors at World Inkers Printing